Johnny Depp walked onto a red carpet recently, and for a few seconds, nobody realized who they were looking at. The man who spent 20 years as Captain Jack Sparrow, the face on your kids' lunchboxes and bedroom posters, looked like a ghost of himself. This wasn't a little weight loss. This was shocking. From around 230 pounds down to nearly 130. Half his body, gone. Not because of some cute celebrity diet, not because he wanted to tone up for summer. Hollywood insiders are whispering that what he did to himself in the last year might have saved his life, and might also be the thing that finally destroys him. To understand how he got here, you can't start with the silver hair, the new beard, or the perfect teeth. You have to start with a scared little boy in a cheap motel room. Johnny Depp was born in 1963 in Owensboro, Kentucky. Youngest of four, his father was a quiet civil engineer. His mother, Betty Sue, waited tables and later stayed home. But what really shaped him wasn't their jobs. It was the violence in the house. Betty Sue had a temper that could flip in a second. She threw things, insulted her own children, unleashed her anger on the nearest target. Johnny learned to read danger in the smallest movement, the sound of her footsteps, the way a door closed, whether the cigarette in her hand meant a joke or a screaming match. His father didn't step in, didn't protect them. He just absorbed it in silence, and the kids absorbed it with him. On top of that, the family never stopped moving. By Johnny's own count, they moved about 40 times before he turned 15. New schools, new faces, no roots, just cardboard boxes and a sense that nothing in life was stable. At one point, they spent almost a year living in a motel in Florida. A teenage boy, stuck between an angry mother and a checked-out father in a cramped room that didn't feel like a home. By 12, Johnny was already smoking, drinking, and taking his mother's nerve pills. Not to party, to numb himself. He picked up a guitar and clung to it like a life raft. While other kids were worried about homework and school dances, he was trying to drown out the sound of arguments in the next room. At 16, he walked out of high school. Done. Finished. When he tried to come back 2 weeks later, the principal didn't give him some motivational speech about education. He told him, "Don't come back. Go follow your dream." It sounds romantic on paper. In reality, it pushed a wounded, unstable kid straight into a world that would eventually chew him up and spit him out. He chased music first, played in bands, slept in cars, crashed on floors, starved, did whatever he had to do to stay on the road. He wasn't a Hollywood prince. He was just another broke kid with a guitar and no backup plan. His first break into acting wasn't some lifelong dream. It was a paycheck. Through his then-wife and Nicolas Cage, Depp got an audition for a low-budget horror movie, A Nightmare on Elm Street. The role paid more money per week than he'd ever seen in his life. He didn't even go in thinking, "I'm an actor." He went in thinking, "I need to pay rent." That famous death scene, Johnny getting sucked into a bed and exploding in a fountain of blood, changed his life. The film made millions. Suddenly, the kid who wanted to be a musician had Hollywood's attention. But the real trap came later. For a lot of people your age, the first time you really noticed Johnny Depp was probably 21 Jump Street. The undercover cop, the serious eyes, the hair, the posters, the magazine covers. What you didn't see was how much he hated it. He was getting paid big money. His face was everywhere. The show turned him into a teen idol, a product to sell to your kids. But behind the scenes, Depp felt like a liar. He was a high school dropout, being forced to look into a camera and tell teenagers to stay in school. He was handed scripts that pretended to tackle serious topics: racism, drugs, violence. but brushed over them in 45 minutes with a neat little message at the end. He felt used. He felt like he was part of propaganda, not storytelling. So he pushed back. He refused certain episodes, turned down $45,000 per episode when the material went against his beliefs, started sabotaging scenes, trashing his trailer, doing anything to remind himself he still had a say in his own life. "They turned me into a puppet," he said later, and he meant it. Walking away from that show was risky. It made him famous, it paid the bills, but he did it anyway, because on some level, that scared boy in the motel was still inside him, refusing to let somebody else own his soul. Then came the movie that changed everything, Edward Scissorhands. No one was sure he was ready. People wanted Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, safer names. But director Tim Burton saw something in Depp that most people had missed. The pain behind the eyes, the quiet shame, the sense of being an outsider in every room. Edward barely speaks. He's gentle, misunderstood, and dangerous without meaning to be. Depp later said, "Edward was me. The scars, the isolation, the way people loved him and feared him at the same time. That was his life, just dressed up in fantasy." From there, he became Hollywood's resident misfit. Ed Wood, Sleepy Hollow, Finding Neverland, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Points there. He went from teen idol to serious actor. Critics respected him. Directors trusted him. Audiences bought tickets just to see what strange, broken character he would play next. And then the pirates sailed in. When Disney greenlit Pirates of the Caribbean, most people expected a disaster. Pirate movies were dead. The last big one had sunk at the box office so badly it almost took an entire studio with it. But then Jack Sparrow stumbled onto the deck, half rock star, half drunk, half mad. Disney executives panicked behind closed doors. Why is he walking like that? Why is he slurring? Is he making fun of us? But audiences loved him. You probably remember the first time you saw that walk, that grin, that insane confidence in the middle of total chaos. Jack Sparrow turned Depp into one of the biggest stars on earth. The movies made billions. He made hundreds of millions. He became the highest paid actor in the world. Amber Heard, the quick romance, the beautiful wedding, the private island, the press photos. It was sold as a modern Hollywood fairy tale. It became a public war. The accusations, the bruises, the restraining orders, the op-ed where she called herself a public figure representing abuse. She didn't say his name. She didn't need to. Studios dropped him before a judge ever weighed in. Disney cut ties. Warner Brothers pushed him out. The same industry that built him up as a legend tossed him aside like a bad headline. He drank more, took more pills, showed up late, looked lost. Everyone watched and judged. The 2022 trial turned their marriage into reality TV for the whole planet. Every ugly fight, every text, every wound played on loop. People picked sides. Johnny versus Amber became something bigger than both of them. When the jury mostly sided with him, some people felt vindicated. Others stayed angry. But one thing nobody could deny: the man who walked out of that courtroom was not the same man who swaggered into Disney's offices 20 years earlier. He was older. He was humiliated. He was broken, but he was still standing. And that's where the real transformation began. Between 2023 and 2024, Johnny Depp did something Hollywood doesn't know how to script. He actually changed his life. He lost around 100 pounds. Not through drugs. Not through some crash cleanse. He cleaned up his eating, hired nutritionists and chefs, ate real food, not junk, cut sugar, cut poison, put discipline where the chaos used to be. He exercised, ran, lifted, practiced yoga, built strength from the ground up, not for a shirtless scene, but to feel like a human being again. He worked on his mind. Years of public humiliation, addiction, legal battles, they don't vanish. He turned to therapy and meditation, quiet work, private work, the kind nobody sees, but everybody feels. Then came the new look. For a film called Daydrinker, he showed up with silver hair, a full gray beard, and cold blue eyes. Fans had to look twice. This wasn't the slick, dark-haired rogue from the early 2000s. This was an older man, fully leaning into his age. The teeth changed too. Gone were the stained, chaotic teeth people joked about. In their place, straight, white, perfect. A brand new smile. Critics wrote about it. Fans zoomed in on photos. Some thought it was fake. But think about what a new smile really means at his age. It's not vanity. It's a statement. I'm still here. I'm rebuilding. I'm not done yet. Directors started calling again. Terry Gilliam cast him. Penelope Cruz signed on as co-star. Rumors began swirling about bigger roles ahead. The man Hollywood tried to bury was back on the call sheet. And when he talked to reporters again, he didn't pretend everything was fine. He called out the people who vanished when he was at his lowest. So when you see those new photos, Johnny Depp thin as a shadow, hair silver, beard gray, eyes almost ice cold, you're not just looking at a makeover. You're looking at a man who's been beaten up by his childhood, by fame, by love, by addiction, by the court of public opinion, and is still trying to rewrite how his story ends. You don't have to forgive him. You don't have to like him. But you can't ignore him. Because underneath the scandals, underneath the roles, underneath the weight loss and the new teeth, there's a simple, uncomfortable truth. The boy in that motel room never really left. He just learned how to survive in front of a camera. And now, at 60, for the first time in a long time, it looks like he's finally trying to survive for himself.